Hey, pinball fans. Let's look at installing the Rick and Morty interactive lit figures here. So the install's pretty straightforward. The biggest issue you'll have to deal with is simply getting the plugs down into the game. Rick's plug goes directly back behind him, although there are some other options, and Morty's plug goes back and to the right and down through the playfield. So I'll give you a little view of how I do those. And then, of course, you'll just remove the screws that hold the original plastics to those posts and use the two screws that we provide to attach them there. So what I suggest is taking off that back nut right there, the one that's in the center of the picture. And that way you'll be able to flop the plastic up just a little bit. I went ahead and removed a few screws just to make it easier to show. But if you look under here, there's a pretty large hole where the wires go from the switches and the optos that are right here. And it's sort of right in the center of the picture. It's the big black area right sort of under the plumbus that you're seeing. All the wires just head down in there. Let me turn on the light here. So right there in the middle where the blue wires go in. So the wire for Rick sort of goes around the back here and just under and through there. So you can just insert it from the side here and then slide it around wherever you want it to end up being. But that's the easiest way to get it through, I think, is that big hole there. My suggestion is to use a zip tie and tape the zip tie, a pretty long zip tie, to the end of the wires that you're wanting to fish through, and use it a little bit like a fish tape. So you'll just be able to poke the zip tie down through that hole and then pull it through from underneath the playfield. Morty's the same basically, except it's a somewhat tight fit over here. And if you look, there's a little hole in both plastics, and that goes down to the bar for the captive ball. And the wire for the optos, which is in the black covering, and then the wire that we're trying to fish through, all go right around and through that hole and slot that are in that plastic. So same idea here is that you'll want to put a zip tie on the end of the Morty cable. I would cut off the little connector, the knob on the zip tie, so it's as slim as possible. Then tape it onto the end of the wire, and you're going to want to fish it down through. And if you come around to the other side of the game, you'll be able to see, let's see if I can get a shot of it. So if you look right down where my finger is pointing, underneath the ramps, there's a big hole. Same idea, it's where the opto wires go through. And so you can sort of see the Morty wires out here, comes around and under the ramps. So you can see it sort of just sitting there. It's sort of hidden, but right there. And then it goes down through that hole. So what I did is I put the zip tie under the ramp and just fished it down through that hole. You can obviously bend the zip tie with your fingers, and that helps it angle it down towards that hole. And you just want to be careful that you don't, try to yank it through or anything. Just pull it gently, make sure it's tight on there pretty well, and you should have no problem fishing it down through there. Of course, then you can screw them both on. And what we'll do now is look under the playfield at how those So the holes that the wires are going to come down through, and then you have this hole just to the bottom left of that, and you can see my silver wire coming through here, going around, and I'm using the light that lights up the let's see, this one is using the light that is in front of the target. That was just for sort of a demonstration. The light that most people will probably want to use is the one that lights up the target. And so if you look back under, there's a light that's sitting, let's see, right here under the target. It's right there. I'm pointing my finger at it. And so that's the one that most people will probably want to use, because it is the one that matches up with what is right under the figures. And so the lights will match between what's lit up under the figure and what's lit up on the target. So you'll just unplug this connector and just keep a note of the orientation, and you can see the yellow wires on top, and in mine it's like a brown wire I think is on the bottom. And if you look on the lighting nodes that Spooky provides from Pinball Life, you can see sort of, if I can get it to focus, let's zoom it in a little bit, you can see it says plus RGB. That's the orientation of the wires. Plus is positive, and then RGB are all negative. If you plug it in the wrong way, you'll be fine. Just the light won't light up correctly. It will be off and won't look the right colors at the right times. So just you'll flip it around. But I'll take a look over here at the other side, just so you can get an idea of where it comes in. Again, the light for the target is just under it, pointing in the gap. Now in this one you can obviously see that I've already plugged in our connector, and we'll look at how to do that in just a second, but that's that light. And then if we trace the wire back, it just comes in just to the right. So here's that drop down target, and then here's the hole that wire comes in for Morty. So you should be able to just pull it in. Mine's a little long here. You can just zip tie it out of the way once you're done. And then I bring it here to that light. Now you want to make sure, obviously, that nothing is going to impinge the wires. You know, the targets move up and down, stuff like that. So just, you know, zip tie them out of the way so they don't hit on anything. They don't get in the way of the switches and stuff like that. And you'll be good to go. Of course, you can put it in test mode and go through the lighting tests, and that will show you, you know, if they're lighting up the right colors. And let's take a look at how those lights plug in. So this is the device you'll get with any of our lighting products for Spooky machines, and this is just a little splitter basically. And so what you have here, and you can see they're labeled, if you look real close here, ours also have the plus RGB. That labeled out is designating that this connector, this big black one here, big I guess on this video but small, is the output of this. And then if you look on the bottom side here, you can see that the other two have labels. One is new and one is input. So input, it was the source from the game. So that is what you're going to plug in, that was originally plugged into the light. And then new is what you're going to plug in your mod to. So in this case, the Rick and Morty figures will plug into this black one on this side. So it's not really, there's not going to be really any issue if you plug it in the wrong way. It's just, you know, it won't split it properly. So again, I'll show you how they're plugged in here. So here's an example of how we try to deliver it to you. You have the bare connector from the mod, which is just a 4-pin header that looks like that. And then that plugs into, and this is again how we'll try to deliver it to you, so you'll have a view of what it looks like without having to do anything. It plugs into the middle one. This one sticking out plugs into the original light, and this one here gets the plug from the game, the one that used to plug into the light there. So it takes this input and splits it off to those two outputs. And so what you'll have also is, again, the RGB plus. Of course, on this side of it, it's backwards because, you know, if you translated it to the upper side, it would match up correctly, plus RGB, and same on this guy. And so you just match up what you already had in the game. So if you had the plug from your game, where in my case I believe the yellow wire was the plus, then you'll just take that yellow wire and plug it into the plus side on those prongs right there, which would be the far side, closest to the input label. So this side where my finger's touching. And ours will already come plugged in like this, so you can take note of which way the wires are oriented. In this case, the red is the plus, so that's pretty straightforward. And then when you plug this guy back into the light, you can orient it the same way. So if you mix it up, it's not going to be a problem, but you'll just want to make sure everything's oriented the right way. If the figure is not lighting up correctly, but the original light is, then you have the figure plug, this plug that's here, in backwards. If neither of them are lighting up correctly, then it's likely you have the input incorrect. If the original light is not lighting up correctly, then you have this whole thing rotated. So just check that out. Should be pretty straightforward once you take a look at it. And here's what I was talking about with the zip tie. So in this case, this is the end of this mod plug. This is what the zip tie looks like that I'm using. It's pretty long, but I would cut off this end and then just lay it here and use electrical tape to tape over all the overlaps. So I would tape up those pins so they don't get caught on anything, and then tape all the way up the zip tie around this wire as well, so they're just one combined string, and then you can fish the pointy side down through the game. So that's pretty much it. If there are any questions, post on Pinside, send us an email. Happy to walk you through anything, and enjoy your custom lit figures.